Happy Tuesday, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 24th. I have one of our guys, Nick, known as Nick of Time. Nick of Time. .lb if you're following him on Instagram. We have a couple interesting things to talk about, but first, let me just say happy birthday to Nick. Happy birthday.
Thank you, Avi.
And I want to remind our viewers, our listeners, of the gentleman's agreement that I set in place, which is based on trust. Since can't see what you guys are doing, we're going to do this every single day. We're going to come out with fresh, interesting content for you, obviously related to watches, the market, trends, pricing, all that good stuff. All I'm asking you to do is subscribe, hit like, do whatever it is you got to do to show your support so that we can continue doing these. Let's get into the first topic. So first topic today is what I brought Nick on for. Nick is an avid gamer and known as a game nerd. I'm going to ask him to talk about The Last of Us, which just premiered on HBO. It's the iteration of the popular video game, and him knowing the game best, I'll let him talk about it and why we're even bringing this up.
Yeah, so the game originally came out in 2013. Follows the main character of Joel Miller. The idea is pretty straightforward. There is a zombie outbreak, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
And one of the pivotal parts of this game, or the story arc of it, is his daughter actually gives him a watch for his birthday. It looks like a basic, just field watch.
Why is it broken?
So as a story goes on, the watch starts to break down. He gets hurt and he gets thrown into walls, things of that nature. It really kind of shows his character arc of, this man just breaking down past, a zombie apocalypse.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
So the idea that I had behind it was that it was just a typical field watch. And in the show, there's like a very split-second scene where you see Desert Storm combat veterans. So
and you're the only person that caught this.
Apparently no one else is talking about it. But when it clicked, I was like, oh, maybe it's a mil-spec watch. So I started looking at, what military watches were issued. And
what is a mil-spec watch?
Mil-spec watch is pretty much, it's a watch that is issued by any form of military, right?
Okay. Any typical brands that they issue?
So if you look back to the early, I think in World War II, there was the Dirty Dozen watches. You had Omega, you had IWC, Longines was one of them. But the idea is, very, basic, reliable, disposable.
Okay. So this watch is it a highlight of the show, or is it just it's something that you picked out from the show?
No, it's a highlight of the story. He's seen wearing it through the first game, through the second game. There is a watch that does look just like the watch that Joel wears in both the game and the show. And ironically enough, the watch came out a year before the video game was, but neither the developer nor the watchmaker actually has commented on this.
Okay. All right, let's move over to topic number 2. Topic number 2 is Steph Curry was photographed wearing a Rolex Deep Sea Dweller at the White House while celebrating the 2022 NBA title. I wanted to have Nick's take on why would Steph Curry be wearing a Sea Dweller, obviously given his size and the use of the watch. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think everyone kind of knows that my standpoint on watches, I'm every watch that I own has a purpose. It's just speedy. It's, I measure my time,
Sure.
Distance, things of that nature. My dive watches I swim with, all that fun stuff. So for Steph Curry, I don't think that he's diving in a deep sea, but at the same time,
he's diving in wins.
He's diving in something.
He does, according to some articles, he does have a history with Rolex and with the Deep Sea specifically. He wore one when he won his first NBA MVP award. So maybe that's like his lucky watch.
Yeah, it could be a lucky watch. There's endless possibilities.
What watch do you think Steph Curry should be wearing to the White House celebrating his NBA title?
Listen, there's a reason why Rolex is the #1 brand in the world, right? Their marketing is second to none. Of course. I think that size-wise, you really couldn't put him in a better watch. Maybe throw him in a blue dial Sky Dweller and a Jubilee. I think that would be a great mix.
Nice, especially with the blue suit he was
wearing. It would look great. Yeah, or he honestly could have even done a black dial Sky. I don't think that either of these are wrong, specifically for how tall he is. I think 44 to 43 millimeter are a great mix.
Okay, cool.
So that's my thought on it.
Let's move on. So this topic is actually a really interesting one. A friend of ours, Austin Chow, he created a company called Wristcheck. You can check him out online. I think it's wristcheck.com. I remember speaking to him years ago when he told us about this concept that he was going to do. He was going to launch like an editorial retail operation. And he was very successful to the point where he just collaborated with Audemars Piguet. They launched a competition to design your own royal oak. They had thousands of entries, and they picked 5 winners. So the first one is really interesting. Ian, if you pull it up, it looks like a rusty royal oak.
Right.
Now, the reason that this designer created it this way is he said, what if there was an alternate timeline where Gerald Genta's design flopped, and out of anger, he threw his watch in the ocean? And this is what it looks like 50 years later when it washed up ashore somewhere. What are your thoughts about this design?
Well, it's funny. So I actually just rewatched the video with Francois and Wristcheck. And the other aspects that they had in this design, it showed like pictures of Burning Man and festivals and things like that. So
that's his like the rainbow dial. That's his like Burning Man like,
which I think is really cool. Well, I'm interested to see too because they're gonna try and make each of these, the 5 layers.
Yes, so they're all gonna visit the factory.
I'm very curious to see how they're gonna how the design.
It should be interesting to see what this looks like. Second one is really, really cool. Yeah. So this is a black ceramic royal oak with a dial featuring a moon phase indicator, a star-filled night sky, and gold indices. Indices? Yeah.
Indices?
Indices? I don't know. Indices. Let's go with indices. The dial is black with what looks like a night sky. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the first thought that I had of when I saw this was it looks like the current iteration of the Carolina Bucci AP. So Carolina Bucci is a very famous, very famous jewelry designer. For those of you who don't know, and she already had, I think at this point, 2 other limited editions. She had a frosted, stippled watch with a mirror dial, and then the black dial or the black PVD that just came out. And I think it's sick.
I mean, this thing is awesome looking. I would actually rock this. I love the night sky look. Third one.
This is honestly probably one of my favorites.
I mean, this is a cool concept. I just don't know how wearable it is, but let's go into it. It's called the Royal Oak Sunbather. This is a white ceramic royal oak with a dynamic dial that would change colors based on UV rays and obviously the angle that you're looking at from. So as you're wearing it, the way the sun hits it makes the dial change colors. It goes through, I guess, all the colors of the spectrum to a rainbow itself. Very cool concept. Not sure how doable that is.
I mean, I think there's ways of cheating it. I think if you look at the Hubo Murakami, the clear one, if you kind of did,
but that's all like different colored diamonds,
right? But at the same time, you have to keep in mind, like if you look at that watch a certain way, it's going to look like there's different hues and things of that nature. So you might not be able to get the whole, spectrum of a rainbow, but you can probably get damn close to it.
I mean, very cool looking watch. It would be really cool to see this one. The next one is questionable. So this is a royal oak that is, environmentally conscious. It's made from waste plastics that have been recycled to create, this royal oak watch. To me, first glance, looks like a camouflage, type of color. But when you look closer, you can see that this is, it's got like pieces and like, art from whatever it was recycled from.
So would it technically be each piece is unique? Because you're not going to have
100%.
Because you're not going to have the exact same pattern.
I mean, my first thought was like, how light is this thing going to be? It's going to be amazing.
Essentially, it's going to be a bioceramic watch.
And it's going to be super durable. And you don't feel bad beating this thing up.
Yeah, but unless it has a price tag of like $80,000.
Oh, and how could that be if it's waste plastics? So I'm assuming it's going to be more affordable. It's going to be targeted towards the the environmentally friendly individual that wants quality, wants high horology, but also at the same time wants to save the planet.
My only concern about this watch would be shock resistance. Right?
I'm sure there's a way for them to do this. Again, it's AP after all.
Yeah, it's AP. But my last topic or part of that is it reminds me too much of the G-Shock Casios.
Yeah.
Luke
I guess you're right.
Has a watch that looks just like that watch.
You are correct. Yes. It might potentially cheapen the line, but it is a novelty. This is not, something that, The final winner is probably my favorite. So this is an endoskeleton design of the Royal Oak. The entire thing is skeletonized from the dial, the indices, the band, the hour markers. Everything is skeletonized.
Which is sick.
It's super cool. Again, another thing about that I first thought about this is lightweight. I mean, this thing has to be lightweight. Durability, I assume.
Yeah.
It's probably durable as hell.
I would be curious to see what material they use on this. Because if you
Yeah.
can get away with titanium, hell, you probably can get away with forged carbon.
Yeah.
To an extent, right? You have forged carbon,
I feel like forged carbon would just take a beating.
to an extent.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Titanium would be cool.
Titanium would be cool. Even stainless steel would be cool. Stainless steel. Yeah.
I don't know if they could do that.
I don't see why they
I mean,
couldn't.
then again, yeah, I'm sure everything is possible.
I mean, this is my favorite design of all.
Yeah, I actually want to see this one being made. It does, if you're listening to this and you're not watching this, it looks like a 3D print of the watch, where it's kind of just the model of it.
It's the bare bones.
Yeah, it really is the bare bones. So when I say endoskeleton, like this is what it is.
It essentially looks like, Francois went into the design room, grabbed a 15500, and then hollowed it out and left everything that held the watch together.
Very, very cool looking watch.
It's awesome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of today's Gray Market podcast. Check back in tomorrow for some fresh content, fresh news, fresh watch information. I'm going to get into some pricing. I'm going to get into some market trends. And I want to thank Nick for showing up and being with us.
Thanks, Ev.
Thank you all today, and see you guys tomorrow.